Hi, welcome to the quiz. You can answer along on quizalto.com, all for free. The exact URL of this quiz will be in the notes down below. Let's get started. Good luck. What information does AWS Compute Optimizer use to generate recommendations? User access logs, compliance reports, real-time monitoring data, historical usage and performance data. AWS Compute Optimizer uses historical usage and performance data of your AWS resources to generate optimization recommendations. What is an AWS Compute Optimizer best practice for optimizing costs? Always choosing the largest instance size. Increasing resource allocation regardless of usage. Stopping or terminating underutilized instances. Running instances in multiple regions simultaneously. An AWS Compute Optimizer best practice for optimizing costs is to stop or terminate underutilized instances, preventing unnecessary expenses on idle resources. What is the output format of AWS Compute Optimizer recommendations? JSON report, XML document, CSV file, HTML web page. AWS Compute Optimizer provides recommendations in a JSON report format for easy consumption and implementation. What is required for AWS Compute Optimizer to make recommendations for your EC2 instances? Machine learning models, real-time monitoring, external API integration, sufficient historical data. AWS Compute Optimizer requires sufficient historical data of your EC2 instances to make accurate recommendations for optimal compute resources. What is the purpose of exporting recommendations from AWS Compute Optimizer? Implementing changes based on recommendations. Updating billing preferences. Tracking user logins. Setting up CloudWatch alarms. The purpose of exporting recommendations from AWS Compute Optimizer is to implement changes based on the recommendations provided, improving resource utilization. What is a key feature of AWS Compute Optimizer? 24/7 customer support. Real-time data analysis. Machine learning-based recommendations. Monthly subscription fee. A key feature of AWS Compute Optimizer is its machine learning-based recommendations, which leverage historical data to predict ideal compute resource configurations for EC2 instances. What kind of analysis does AWS Compute Optimizer perform on your AWS resources? Compliance and regulatory analysis. Code quality analysis. Load testing analysis. Performance and utilization analysis. AWS Compute Optimizer performs performance and utilization analysis on your AWS resources to provide optimization recommendations. What is the main purpose of AWS Compute Optimizer? To automate security configurations for AWS resources. To provide real-time monitoring of AWS resources. To manage user access control for AWS services. To help customers reduce operational costs and improve performance. The main purpose of AWS Compute Optimizer is to help customers reduce operational costs and improve the performance of their AWS resources through optimization recommendations. What is the main benefit of using AWS Compute Optimizer? Enhanced security. Automated testing. Improved UI/UX. Cost optimization. One of the main benefits of using AWS Compute Optimizer is cost optimization, as it helps you right-size your EC2 instances to match the workload requirements, thus potentially reducing unnecessary expenses. In which AWS region is AWS Compute Optimizer available? Only in the Asia-Pacific regions. Only in the US regions. All AWS commercial regions. Only in the EU regions. AWS Compute Optimizer is available in all AWS commercial regions to help users optimize their resource configurations. What does AWS Compute Optimizer analyze to provide recommendations? Network latency. Storage capacity. Historical CPU utilization and memory utilization. Physical server availability. AWS Compute Optimizer analyzes historical CPU utilization and memory utilization to provide recommendations for optimized resource allocation. What is one aspect of resource optimization that AWS Compute Optimizer focuses on? Backup and recovery strategies. Database schema design. User interface layout. Instance type and size. AWS Compute Optimizer focuses on resource optimization, particularly on recommending the right instance type and size for improved performance and cost efficiency. What does AWS Compute Optimizer help users to achieve with their EC2 instances? Increase security vulnerabilities. Improve performance and reduce costs. Optimize database queries. Automate deployment processes. AWS Compute Optimizer helps users to improve the performance of their EC2 instances by recommending optimal compute resources while also reducing costs through right-sizing. What types of AWS resources can AWS Compute Optimizer provide recommendations for? API gateway endpoints. EC2 instances, Lambda functions, and auto-scaling groups. S3 buckets and Glacier storage. Elastic Beanstalk environments. AWS Compute Optimizer can provide recommendations for EC2 instances, Lambda functions, and auto-scaling groups to optimize performance. What does AWS Compute Optimizer use to generate recommendations? Static rule-based analysis. Customer preference surveys. Machine learning algorithms. Geographic location data. AWS Compute Optimizer uses machine learning algorithms to analyze resource utilization patterns and generate recommendations for optimal configurations. What is a use case for AWS Compute Optimizer? Configuring Route 53 traffic routing. Managing IAM policies. Generating DNS records. Improving application performance. A use case for AWS Compute Optimizer is improving application performance by recommending optimal resource configurations. What is a key benefit of implementing AWS Compute Optimizer recommendations? Easier network troubleshooting. Reduced data transfer speeds. Improved server uptime. Enhanced cost-effectiveness and performance. Implementing AWS Compute Optimizer recommendations can lead to enhanced cost-effectiveness and performance, aligning resource allocation with actual usage and requirements. What does AWS Compute Optimizer recommend for AWS resources? Bandwidth usage recommendations. Application design recommendations. Instance type and size recommendations. Security group configuration recommendations. AWS Compute Optimizer provides recommendations for the instance types and sizes that are best suited for your workloads based on utilization data. What is the primary benefit of using AWS Compute Optimizer? Enhanced data security. Increased fault tolerance. Improved performance and cost optimization. Faster deployment times. The primary benefit of using AWS Compute Optimizer is to improve the performance and optimize the cost of your AWS resources. What is a key benefit of implementing recommendations from AWS Compute Optimizer? Reduced network latency. Higher data security. Improved resource efficiency and cost savings. Faster application deployment. Implementing recommendations from AWS Compute Optimizer can lead to improved resource efficiency and cost savings by optimizing your AWS resources. How does AWS Compute Optimizer help with performance optimization? By providing real-time monitoring alerts. By adjusting network configurations. By recommending suitable instance types and sizes based on resource usage. By automatically scaling up resources. AWS Compute Optimizer helps with performance optimization by recommending suitable instance types and sizes based on resource usage, ensuring efficient performance. Which feature of AWS Compute Optimizer helps in identifying over-provisioned resources? Resource inventory tracking. Security configuration checks. Recommendations for expansion. Recommendations for downsizing. AWS Compute Optimizer provides recommendations for downsizing instances, which helps in identifying over-provisioned resources and reducing costs. What is the benefit of leveraging AWS Compute Optimizer recommendations? Improved performance and cost optimization. Automated deployment of AWS resources. Enhanced security of AWS resources. Guaranteed 100% uptime of AWS instances. Leveraging AWS Compute Optimizer recommendations can lead to improved performance and cost optimization by using the most appropriate instance types and sizes for workloads. What is the recommended method to apply the changes based on AWS Compute Optimizer recommendations? Contacting AWS support. Restarting the instances. Using the AWS Management Console or CLI. Increasing security group permissions. The recommended method to apply the changes based on AWS Compute Optimizer recommendations is to use the AWS Management Console or command line interface to modify the instance types. What AWS service does AWS Compute Optimizer focus on for optimization recommendations? DynamoDB tables. S3 buckets. Lambda functions. EC2 instances. AWS Compute Optimizer focuses on EC2 instances when providing optimization recommendations for compute resources. And that's a wrap. Thanks to everyone who participated. Remember, you can answer along on quizalto.com, where you can keep track of your progress and find much more quizzes. We hope you had a fun and challenging time. Until next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more. Hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as we upload. Please leave a comment if you have any thoughts or suggestions, and if you think this video is worth sharing with someone who could benefit from it, please forward a link to them. See you next time. Thanks for watching.